Okay, well, good evening, and welcome to our 21st Century Teaching and Learning broadcast for this month. This evening our topic is Research and Robotics. My name is Dr. Barbara Russell, and I serve as the Assistant Superintendent here in Perkiomen Valley. And with me this evening are some very high-energy, passionate students from our high school, along with Dr. David Johnson, who teaches biology in our high school and is formerly our STEM coordinator. So let me begin by introducing more specifically who we have with us around the table, and then I'll talk a little bit about our conversation, set the stage, provide you with some background and some additional detail about what we mean by research and robotics, and then our students are actually going to help you to learn more about the experiences in those areas. So I'll begin over here with Ryan. Ryan is a 9th grader at the high school, and actually all of the students with us this evening are 9th graders at the high school. And we have Taya. Over here to my left we have Devin, and we have Malika, and I thank all of you for joining us tonight. This is Dr. David Johnson, and if I may, I'd like to begin our conversation this evening by asking Dr. Johnson some questions, and he'll share with us some of the background around this research club and the research experience that our students will talk about. And you at any time can send questions you may have via email to Mrs. Lester, and she will be overseeing that email account, PV Curriculum and Instruction. So please feel free to pose any questions during the course of our broadcast. We did receive a few questions ahead of time. I'm very appreciative of that, so thank you for those of you that sent some questions in advance, and we will address those as we move through the conversation this evening. So if I can begin with the research piece, Dr. Johnson, can you help us to understand a little bit about the background of the research club and the research experience our students have participated in that you initiated last year in the middle schools?
Sure. So formerly my last position that I had in the district was STEM coordinator. And one of the things, talking with the science department at PV, and then as I was able to network with other science departments throughout the county, one thing I noticed was that we were doing a lot when it came to science, a lot when it came to mathematics in terms of competitions and extracurriculars. But there was a piece missing where we were conducting research internally, but we weren't taking that research a step further. We weren't competing with our research, and we had this idea of putting in a research club during this new Viking block in middle school. And it worked out perfectly in my position where we could have these clubs at both middle schools, and pull kids in who have this additional time during the school day where if they were interested in science research, they could develop a question, develop an experiment, and then take that research to local science fairs and compete in these local competitions. And the reason why I wanted to do it was because there's a lot of intellectual talent in this district, and clearly, from this past year that we did the research club, and I guess you'll find out, we were very, very successful with it. And another thing that we've learned over the past year is, especially with our STEAM Expo that we had a few months back, there's a lot of interest in the district from the community that we want to get more involved in STEM activities. The research club is just one small portion of that, but it's a way for students to do individual research and take it outside the district so that other schools can see it, other industries can see it, and people from around the community and the entire state can see the research that we do with PV.
So lots of networking opportunities for our students,
Oh, yeah.
sounds like. That's great. And you actually organized this research club at both middle schools, if I remember correctly?
Yes. So
at East and West.
Last year was our pilot year with it, and in the position that I was in, I was able to go between both buildings once every cycle, and yeah, it worked out pretty well.
Great. So just approximately how many students participated all total last year? Do you remember? Just give us a rough number.
We had a high level of interest. We had about 30 students, and we then put them through the proposal phase, and we had about 12 to 15 students, right off the top of my head, that were able to do research and get past that proposal phase. And then we had about the same amount of students that actually placed in science competitions that received first, second, or third places. So there is a part to this where students have to be self-driven and self-motivated, and they have to get their research proposal completed and passed. But we had a good group of students, and everybody that made it past that phase ended up with some sort of placement in a competition.
Excellent, great. So let's talk a little bit more about what you did and the competition. But before we get to that, let me ask you all, what inspired you to participate in Research Club? I mean, why would you raise your hand or sign up for that as part of your Viking block selection? Can I start with you, Ryan?
Sure. Well, I felt that we all have a high-level interest in science, and our regular science classes sort of weren't cutting it for us. So we saw the opportunity, and we just decided to try it, and we all really liked it.
So you like to be pushed in science. You
Yeah.
like to learn more science. Great, good to hear. How about you, Taya?
Yeah, me it's the same as Ryan. I had like a high interest in STEM, and I really wanted to pursue what I was interested in more than the science curriculum myself and be able to compete. So that really drove me to sign up.
Okay, all right, great. How about if we come over here? Can you share, Devin, what inspired you?
Well, I've always had an interest in science, and I used to always read articles online, and I competed in my first science fair back in 6th grade, but that project wasn't as good as the one I did in 8th grade. So I always loved it. It was fun for me. So I wanted to continue to do it.
And you brought some experience to the table last year. That's
Yeah.
great. Very good. How about you, Malika? Why did you sign up for Science Research Club?
I always enjoyed science. It was always my favorite subject in school. And then my dad one day told me about STEM, and I thought it sounded interesting. So then I always looked up more on science topics. And then when they showed the Science Research Club that I could sign up for, I jumped on it and I signed up.
Wow, great. So I'm guessing the reason that you're all here tonight is because you had a very positive experience as part of your research club. So can you talk, and we can have more of a conversation, it's really okay. We don't have to go one at a time. In fact, our viewers would probably appreciate that, to hear a conversation, so please feel free. But talk to us a little bit about the types of projects you did. What did you work on when you were in the Science Research Club?
Well, Ty and I did a group project along with one other student who isn't here with us today. But we did a behavioral science research topic, and our research was about the dress code, the school dress code, and about gender bias within the dress code. And we decided to do it because we thought it was a really interesting topic that relates to basically everyone who's in the public school because they have to deal with dress code. So we thought it was really relatable, and we could really research it.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about the data you collected. How did the two of you collect data? How did you gather your...
We sent out surveys to schools, so usually if you're doing
Right?
yeah, through Google. Usually if you're doing behavioral science, then it's in the form of surveys that you can send out. So we sent it out to districts in Montgomery and Berks County.
Okay.
And we were successful in getting a lot of schools to respond to us.
Yeah.
Students in schools?
No, we
And
sent out to the
teachers.
faculty within
Really?
the schools.
Terrific. And they responded, that's great.
Yes,
how
most
many-
of them responded.
So give us an idea, how many people responded to your survey?
I think we got
I
40.
And I think we got
I thought it was 40 or so.
Okay.
50 something, yeah.
Okay.
40, 50.
Okay, all right, so in the area of 40 to 50, that's terrific, great. How about over here, what sorts of projects did you work on?
I did a behavioral science one, and basically I had the 7th grade students back at West test to see if the balance ball chairs affected any of their learning compared to the stools in the other science classroom. So yeah.
Terrific, great, and how about you, Malika, what'd you do?
I did if music affected how much motivation you put into a workout, and I created surveys, and I went to different gyms, and I asked people if they would fill out a survey. It took 1 minute or so, and I would ask them questions, and they would tell me what their response, and based on those responses, I was able to see whether the music kept them motivated throughout their workout.
Okay, so how many individuals participated in your survey?
I got 100 people.
100?
I mean, I
Very
asked.
quickly too.
Yeah.
It was
Wow.
within like days you had hundreds of people, yeah.
So you just went to a couple of gyms and spent some time there and tapped people and asked them if they would participate?
Yeah, the only thing was that there were people that would say no, and there were a couple people that did say no.
Mm-hmm.
Some were nicer than others when they said no. And so it made it a little harder, but I still got 100 people in the end.
I'm sure that also was a learning experience connected
Yeah.
to the whole research project, interacting with people in that way, requesting something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And how many people participated in your
About 20.
study? About 20.
Yeah.
And you worked with students here from Perkiomen Valley? Okay, great. So some behavioral scientists here, huh?
Yeah,
Some
this
budding
year,
behavioral
And
scientists.
This year we're
This year we're all
changing
changing
Yeah.
up. We're branching out to
Yeah.
different
Oh, really?
topics.
Okay,
yeah.
so tell us what you're branching out to, because let me first ask, are all of you in Earth Systems this year, or are you in another science course as ninth graders at the high school?
I'm in Earth Systems.
You're in Earth Systems?
I'm in the system.
I'm taking my sister.
Me too.
Okay, all right. So what are you branching out to study this year?
Well, I'm branching out to zoology, I think we decided.
Zoology, yeah.
Which is the category that has many people in it. But I'm doing a study about horses.
Oh,
'Cause that's what I'm really passionate about it. So I'm doing a study to see if different grooming effects can calm a hot-headed horse.
oh, okay.
I learned what a hot-headed horse was. Did you want to share what that
Yeah,
is?
how-
Oh, a hot,
Sure.
oh, well, a hot
Horse.
horse is like a high-spirited horse. So they have a temper and they're energetic and they're very high-spirited and sometimes they're hard to deal with because they're very strung out, I guess is a good word.
So you're wondering if the grooming might calm them down? Okay, very good. Great, interesting. Sounds interesting. Ty, what are you going to do? Are you working together this year?
No, not this year.
Okay. What are you doing?
I'm doing an experiment on whether sunscreen affects coral bleaching or not.
Okay.
So coral bleaching is basically when the corals lose all of their color due to some environmental issues. And I'm seeing if sunscreen will affect that.
So how will you gather your data?
I'm actually using Belly, which is like a symbiote in the coral. So I'm gonna do an experiment with that and see if the sunscreen interacts with that. And if it does, then I can tell if the corals will be bleached or not.
Okay, that sounds very interesting. Great. How about over here?
I still need to make sure I can do it first, but I wanted to do something to see if veganism is healthier, like eating style.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so no meat in a diet.
Yeah.
And does that include no dairy with the diet that you're looking at?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, interesting. So you then have to seek out individuals who have opted for that type of diet versus a diet that includes meat. Is that right? Is that what
Yeah.
you're thinking?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
thinking maybe 10 or 15 people who are vegan and then 10 or 50 people that aren't vegan
Okay.
and comparing them to see how their vitals are.
Okay, all right. Developing a study, that sounds very interesting. How about you, Devin? What are you doing this year?
I think I'm gonna stay in behavioral science because I really like it. I want to do something with how yoga can affect grades.
Huh.
So seeing
Nice.
if yoga can actually help you calm down and prepare for a test and see if it can help you get a higher score or just keep your score up other than it falling because you might get stressed. So,
Okay, so there's a lot of research right now out about the combination of physically moving, keeping your body active while you're trying to learn. So it'll be really interesting to see what sort of data you gather and the results, the findings that you discover. Interesting. That's a very popular area right now
Yeah.
in education.
So I love fitness and exercise and
Okay,
yeah.
so that's
It's just an
something.
interest for me.
Right, very good, excellent. So when you go through your research, what do you actually do? When you meet with Dr. Johnson, how does he assist you? How do you work together to actually move through the whole project?
I don't
Dad?
do much.
Oh, you
No, I
don't?
honestly don't do much.
Okay.
They're extremely self-motivated, so.
It's definitely a self-motivation thing. If you not motivated to do it, and you're just kind of doing it because you're being forced to, like parents forcing you to, it's not going to get done because it's very self-motivated. You have to want to get it done because most of the time it's at home, doing your own research, writing your own proposal.
Yeah, and that sounds like a lot, but if you're actually interested, then you'll get it done really fast. Like I already have my proposal done, so if it feels like a drag, then it'll
Then
be
it's
really
not
meaningful for
right.
you.
Interesting, okay, good. So go ahead, were you gonna share?
Like the competitions are always fun, and I feel like that is like what can actually motivate you to get your project finished. Like
Great point.
you don't need help if you're that interested in the subject. You won't need any help, or like you could use like little help, but it's a lot easier if you're interested in the subject that you're trying to study.
So Dr. Johnson might answer some questions for you, but then you're sort of on your own, once you're set up and you have an idea for a
Which
study?
we
Like
ask-
checkups, he does checkups.
Yeah.
He does checkups, okay, and then you have an opportunity to maybe review some things.
Yeah, if you need help on something, he'll like help us get the information that you need.
So Malika, can you tell us, what sorts of challenges did you come across in your research? I mean, like when you need help or when you have a question, can you think of an example? Was it always pretty smooth sailing, or did you sometimes run into some challenges? Hit some rough
It
spots?
was smooth for the most part. I think the only real difficult thing was the people that said no to taking the survey, is that there were some gyms where it was like more people would say no than others. Like there was this one gym where like almost all the people said yes, and then there was another gym where like most of them said no.
Oh, okay, so that felt like a challenge to you, because you were trying to gather the data.
Yeah.
Okay, how about other challenges that you came across? Do you have any other examples? I mean, was it easy?
It was pretty smooth.
It was pretty
for the most
smooth
part.
for the most part. I think our main problem was getting actual people to fill out the survey,
Yeah,
our
like,
sample size.
once you get past the experiment, then it's really,
Once-
it's mostly like
yeah,
fun and
once
the
you have your
experience from there.
research and you're just trying to collect it all into like a PowerPoint or a chart, whatever you're doing. But our main problem was actually getting it past the school boards we were trying to send the survey to.
The school,
The
I'm
school
sorry?
boards, like we were
That's
sending the
yeah.
survey
Oh,
to.
I see.
So Dr. Johnson would send our survey out to superintendents of school boards, and they wouldn't let the faculty take the survey because of the topic briefing. So that was the main struggle we
I
faced.
think it's a common thing, I think, because they're all, behavioral scientists last year. That behavioral sciences, a lot of it is survey data and taking data and trying to quantify it. That there's a lot of getting past the gatekeeper, the trying to get your data, trying to get past the right way that you need to get to the people that you're trying to get surveys. So I guess what I'm saying is, they're dealing with the same type of issues that any type of behavioral scientist would deal with, and as a graduate student or as professors. So it's pretty interesting. These are common challenges as they continue their research, as they go to higher ed and whatnot. So
Interesting challenge to run into. So, what can you tell us that you've learned about research and the research process that maybe you didn't know before you participated in this club with Dr. Johnson? What can you share? What stands out now that you're researchers? What do you know that you didn't know before?
Usually in like science class, when we do an experiment, they give us like worksheets to fill out, and we have a certain set of rules. But I really learned to like take it into my own hands and be able to get organized and think critically about what I'm doing. So it
Make
was-
your own rules for the experiment.
yeah.
Okay, so when you say make your own rules for the experiment, talk a little bit more about that. What does that actually mean? What were you
Well,
thinking?
When you're in science class, like Ty said, you usually get a worksheet that has the directions for the experiment, all the materials you need, has everything laid out, so all you have to do is follow the steps and not mess it up. But when we do our experiments, we have to make our own materials list, decide what we need to do, and we have to make our own procedures, so decide how we're going to do it, when we need to do it, things like that. So it's not all there for us, we have to make it ourselves.
So Dr. Johnson, this is an area last year that you worked on quite a bit with science teachers, if I recall, helping us all to shift more to an inquiry-based approach where all of the information wasn't necessarily provided to our students, like the steps of a procedure, to conduct an experiment, but instead to start to encourage students to think more independently, as all of you are describing, or at least Ryan and Ty at this point. Can you talk a little bit about that and why it's so important in science to move in that direction?
I think any type of science teacher wants to get their students towards this point of open inquiry, not just guided through steps. They want students to be able to set their own parameters, establish their tests. Science is about testing, and it's about measuring and pulling in data. I think that we have some great teachers in this district that work towards getting their students towards open inquiry, and I think that when students want to participate in things like a science research club or STEM research club, I think that's the epitome of it. We all, there's different levels that we can do in class, but when students can actually take that initiative to say, I want to test this on my own, or I want to set my own experiment, I think that's the epitome of good science education. And this district has great teachers, some of which have spoke about inquiry at national conferences. This is where we want to be as a district as a science department. So it's great to have students that are interested in it. It's great to have a community too where parents and students want to get involved in doing their own types of science experiments.
Yeah, and just to speak to that for a second, I would have to agree with you. Our community has a strong interest, it seems, in STEM-related or research-based science-like activities. Last year's STEAM Expo, I think, was the largest in the few-year history. Maybe we've been hosting that for about 5 years or so, but that was by far probably the largest one we've had, both teachers and students, faculty and students, and it was really wonderful to see the number of staff and students out displaying for all of us some of the great things that they're doing in science or those STEAM-connected subject areas. Really nice to see. So how about if I turn over here, because I don't want to leave you out of the conversation, but what are some of the things that you learned about research and the research process that maybe you didn't know before you participated in the club last year?
Like Ty and Ryan said, everything is given to you. You get the steps and the procedure and everything, but you make everything. When you're doing your experiment, you choose your experiment and you make your procedure, and you get to create everything, so you get to have what you want to do and do whatever you want in it.
So you really assume full responsibility for the learning. You're figuring out, based upon what you know, how to know more or how to get more information.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
great.
takes a lot of creativity to be able to do everything that we've done in our research, because you have to, it's very you're very independent on this, and it's really hard to do sometimes, but when you get over the speed bumps, it's a lot easier. So I came up with all the questions. I found all the articles that I was quizzing the students on for my research, and I created every single question on the quiz, and I graded it all myself. And yeah, it was pretty hard, but it was easy. It got easy after everything was over.
So that's a lot of paperwork. That's
Yes.
a lot of data gathering and coding of your data, organization of your data, and then figuring out your results.
Yeah.
But when you're motivated, like you all said, when you're motivated, that's the kind of thing you want to do. When you're motivated.
Yeah. I think Lisa brings up a good point that it's what you want to do. Sometimes when you're doing experiments in a science class, it's not something you're interested in or that you want to do, but if that's something you're interested in, so maybe more people will be want to join because something that they'll be interested in, not something that they're forced to do.
So do you think this work that you've done as part of the research club and the competitions at the science fair level, do you think that experience is helping you in your science class this year, in your science coursework, or really in all of your coursework? I mean, just the idea that you were so much more independent as a learner and you were very motivated?
Good question.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Do you feel like it's helping you in this coursework this year?
It teaches you how to be more responsible and more independent, for sure.
That's good. Those are good qualities. Help you to be successful.
When I do the labs in class, I get kind of frustrated because I like doing things by myself. So doing the
Okay.
science fair project, that I did. I just liked being able to set my own rules and like do what I wanted, other than have to listen to like a set of procedure, like a procedure and like all these rules. Like it's just a lot easier to do it yourself sometimes.
Yeah, it gives you the opportunity to show what you can do and not
Yeah.
what you can do in a group only.
Exactly.
Okay, all right, very good.
And like before this, we had little to no opportunity to really compete in something that we were interested in, like STEM. So this really allowed us to like get out there and have people give us feedback. And honestly, competitions are the most rewarding part, because if you've done all this work, like the last thing you want to do is take a test on it. And get a
It's
picture.
true. You
So-
know,
That's very
you
true.
know, like this,
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a great segue. Let's talk about the competitions that you all participated in, because for a long time in our middle schools, we had every single 8th grade science student participate in a science fair competition with a science fair project. And we began to wonder whether or not that was the best approach for all students. And so we've shifted now to have select students who really want to do or participate in that level where they would compete with their research project to choose to participate. So the students in science who don't participate in science fair are conducting experiments through the course, and because that science fair project isn't consuming the amount of time it did as part of our curriculum, it does provide our teachers and students more time to dedicate and go deeper into the topics, particularly in physical science, which is the 8th grade science curriculum. So pulling that science fair project for every single student allowed us to focus on more physical science at a deeper level, more critical level, but also afford those of you that are really interested in projects to complete a project and compete. Now, I understand you competed in 2 science fair competitions, the Montgomery County and the Pennsylvania Junior Academy.
Do you mind if I speak on that?
Absolutely
8th grade
not.
science for a
Sure.
second? I think
Yeah,
that just
sure.
over the past year, we did make changes last year. We did make changes where we could have these science fair research projects. And the 8th grade science teachers use that as an opportunity to incorporate more STEM-related type activities. And I can speak to a couple of teachers, Mrs. Lanzetta, who did a fantastic job working with University of California at Berkeley
Mhm.
to incorporate a new pilot materials for a brand new type of science curriculum. And then Ms. Herzog, who had a fantastic STEM research project that she did within her classes that was physical science related. So although it's a little bit of a change where we don't do science fair embedded into 8th grade, what we're doing in 8th grade science is for all students over the past year has been fantastic, and the new opportunities that they've incorporated. So we're not getting rid of 8th grade science fair, but we're expanding it to be more competitive, but also to do more STEM-related activities within the core curriculum. Core curriculum.
Okay, great, very
Mhm.
helpful, thank you.
Sorry,
for
just
sharing.
wanted to speak.
That's okay, that's very helpful, because that was actually one of the questions that was posed to us, a question about why the change. So the additional information is really helpful. And we'll talk a little bit more about what other opportunities exist for our middle school students to participate in science-related clubs or activities, or Viking block activities. But let's talk about the competitions for a little bit. Some of you have mentioned that the competitions, the fact that you were going to compete actually motivated you, and you competed in 2 competitions, and I think Ryan and Taya, you actually advanced to the state competition. So you actually competed 3 times total, but you competed at the Montgomery County level, and then you competed in the Pennsylvania Junior Academy of Science fair projects and the competitions there. And then ended up at Penn State because you made it to the finals.
Right.
And I think our board of school directors recognized you and a group of you for your achievements, because you did really well, and the district is really proud of that. And as a former science teacher, I just love when people and students are really passionate and interested in science. It was wonderful to see. So talk to us about the competition. What was that like? Montgomery County versus Pennsylvania Junior Academy. Why compete?
Well, the Montgomery County is more of your traditional science fair with long tables of students' trifolds, and you sit at your trifold and a judge or judges come around to you and you give them a short presentation about your project, and they ask you questions, and they maybe take a copy of your abstract, which is like an overview of your experiment, and then they will judge you after they've looked at all the other trifolds in your like area of research.
So if your trifold is on display on a table and a judge walks by, are you obligated to present your trifold?
Well, they actually sort of have to like stop at your trifold, and then you just give your presentation, and you basically have like a conversation with them, and they can ask you questions about your project, and then you hand them the abstract, and then they can like take a few minutes to like look over it, and then they can move on to the next person.
Okay, so they're scoring you as they're doing that. Okay, they have a rubric. Okay. Malika, how is that different from, if I could ask you, the Pennsylvania Junior Academy?
You have a PowerPoint presentation, and you have a group of judges sitting at a table, and they have this slip of paper that you're supposed to give them, and then you write your name on it, and then you're presenting what your project is about, and then at the end of the presentation, the judges ask you questions about it, and then they tell you things that you could add or improve on your project, and then they give you your paper back for the things that they suggested, and then you can look at it so that when you go to the next science fair, you would be, your project would be better in a sense.
Okay, better prepared.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, and Taya, maybe I can turn to you now. It sounds like at Montgomery County, you're doing a lot of standing next to your trifold. If a judge asks you questions, then you answer them. Did I hit that nail on the head?
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas at the Pennsylvania Junior Academy Science Fair competition, you have to prepare a presentation, and you have to stand in front of a classroom or a small space in front of judges, and in a logical manner present your research. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And I think there's no like huge difference. I know the way you're presenting is a bit different. One's traditional and one's on PowerPoint, but you both get your point across in the same way, and you're both able to do that. And they're honestly the least stressful thing in my opinion, because it's what all of your work has been building up to.
Okay.
So this is rewarding.
Yeah.
If you do a good job, you'll get recognized for that, and that's the best part.
So do you have to use PowerPoint? Two of you mentioned PowerPoint. Do you have to use it?
For PJAS, yeah.
You
You're in a classroom in a school on an off day, usually weekend, and there's a few other people in there with you in your category, and you just present your project to them and a few judges.
So if you had your choice to present your project in PJAS, what resource would you use? Would you use PowerPoint, or would you have chosen to do it a different way, using a different resource?
Well, for our group project, since we had 3 people working on it, we chose to use Google Slides so that we could all have access to it and we could all be working on it at the same time.
So you collaborated to actually generate this
Right.
final project.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
all 3 of us worked on the project
Great.
together. And so we decided to use Google Slides because it was easier to share the project with everybody, and all 3 of us could access it at the same time without having to worry about a flash drive.
So while you were at home, all 3 of you could be in 3 different places, but you could all access that project and
And
be
we
working.
could see what other people changes or like comments,
Great,
things like that.
excellent. Okay, so you chose to use Google Slides. How about over here? Would you have chosen to use PowerPoint?
I did PowerPoint
You
because
did?
it was just me, so like I didn't think I had to use Google Slides.
Okay.
I liked using the Google Slides because it's just a lot easier to be able to save your work, access it from anywhere, and like share it, and you can put it on a flash drive to have backups. So
Okay, so it's quite versatile.
yeah.
Okay, great. So does anybody make a movie, or does anybody present their presentation or their research, in the form of a multimedia, or is it always,
It's PowerPoint.
or Google
Or
Slides?
Google Slides.
Okay,
Some
I've
slideshow
never seen
presentation.
someone like do that before.
you haven't,
I've never seen someone do it as a video.
That
So there's-
would be an interesting
Yeah, I
science fair
think
though.
you could do that maybe.
Yeah.
There's some strict rules that you have to
Yeah.
follow for each competition. But I will say, the one Montgomery County Science Fair, they're encouraged to bring their logbooks and to bring their data so that judges can look through it and see what they've done. And they're encouraged to show pictures of their experiment. It actually makes it a lot easier to kind of visualize because as an advisor, I have to judge other competitions or other students. And when I'm seeing pictures of the experiments, it makes it a lot more sense to me. But videos, that would be great if they're down the road. We are participating in new types of competitions like Google Science Fair, where we can use more multimedia type presentations. So as we expand this, that could definitely be a possibility.
Great. So let's talk about expanding it. What's happening at the middle school this year? You're now at the high school.
Mm-hmm.
You're continuing to run the research club.
Yes.
With high school students. If I understand correctly, you've invited middle school students to participate.
Yes.
Okay.
So
So tell us about that.
if you are high school students, absolutely room 207, especially on Tuesdays, but after school every day. They can check in, high school students can check in when they're able to. Has the next couple months they'll be putting together their proposals, and we'll be launching our own district institutional review board and then trying to get these proposals accepted by the competitions. Middle school students, hello. If you're able to come to the high school after school, you're always welcome to join, but we're also looking for other possibilities of expanding this club back to the middle school under Viking block time or after school. But our high school competition or our high school club is 100% open to anybody in grades 6 through 12. But we'll see what we can do to expand this out to everybody that's in secondary grades.
Okay, so the logistics of your schedule this year makes it a little bit more challenging to get to both West and East in the way that you did last year.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a teacher at East who's willing to lead the research club during Viking block, working to establish that same thing at West, that same opportunity for students. I just wanted to mention, because this too was a question, what opportunities exist for our middle school students? In addition to that Viking block opportunity at East and the one that we're hoping to get started again at West, there is a science club after school at East run by Mr. Kersinger, where students can come and participate in some science activities, learn more science, extend their learning. And there is also in community ed a solar car competition again that he is also running, Mr. Kersinger, and that's open through community ed to students who are interested. At West, in addition to working on the Viking block and reinstating the research, Ms. Emmers runs a green team, which is an environmental club, really, of sorts, where students can choose to participate after school and really focus on environmental issues. And they take a pretty neat field trip overnight later in the year when they go to the Poconos and study the environment there in that particular setting. And then there is also a bridge design Viking block club activity, if you will, at Middle School West, run by Mr. Weir and Mr. Barnett. So that's also science related. It's not research necessarily, but it is designing and building bridges. So again, an opportunity for our students to participate in science-like activities beyond their regular coursework, their core science curriculum or math curriculum or their electives. So we're hoping to continue to build this because the students that we've talked to, which is another reason we wanted to focus on it tonight, the students that we've talked to have really had positive experiences. And we want that to continue, and as you mentioned, we want to continue to grow this work on the part of our students here in Perkiomen Valley.
And also, we have award-winning clubs at the high school, Envirothon, Science Olympiad, so there's a lot of opportunities when it comes to STEM, and hopefully newer opportunities in the field of robotics very soon.
So can anybody participate in Science Olympiad or Envirothon, or is there some sort of special criteria I have to meet? If I'm a student at the high school, is that possible?
Absolutely.
Okay, so who do I seek out if I'm interested in the Science Olympiad?
Miss McGivney,
Okay,
and I think that's, I don't want to say the other teacher's name because I don't know if she's participating this year, so.
It's just
Okay.
okay, and how about Envirothon? If I'm interested in an Envirothon at the high school,
So that is Mrs. Gallagher, and we'll have to see, because she's currently on leave, but she's coming back, so we'll have to see how that goes.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great to know.
Mhm.
Always helpful. Now, tell us a little bit about robotics. The other half of our title this evening, it was research and robotics, means that we're going to talk a little bit about robotics. So what are you thinking, Dr. Johnson, about robotics? What ideas do you have, and what are you working towards?
I think that we live in an area where we have the capability of competing and having a robotics competition club. We currently have started a STEM robotics club at the high school. And again, this potentially can be open to middle school. But the STEM robotics club at the high school, we literally just started not too long ago to work to develop a robotics competition that would compete under the first robotics league or the first robotics league or the first tech league, but locally in the area. So at this current time, we have a small group of students, and our goal now is to go to competitions, to ask questions, to get in there and see the competition, to see what we're getting ourselves into, so that the following school year, after we've spent a year building capacity for this club, we at PV can actually have a team that competes in these leagues. But we're very serious about it, and we want to take this time over the next year or so to go to these competitions. And we have a good group of students that are definitely into it, and they can be the pioneers for this club. But as that club grows, it's another opportunity that's not just high school, it's also middle school, just like the research club is. We want to get middle school and high school together. We want students that are interested to do this for several years.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to hearing more about that
Mhm.
and watching that grow, because I know, in my experience in conversations with students, they're very excited in robotics. That is really an up-and-coming field, and just another area within STEM that's really growing. So
And I can say, I know that it's difficult for middle school students to make the trek over to the high school, but they can. For research, for robotics, if they're able to, and we can work out a system where they can come to the high school after school, 100% absolutely they can take advantage of this right now.
Great.
But logistically, we'll have to talk about that.
So, any final thoughts from all of you? How do we continue to grow this research club and the research process, the experiences for our students? What would you say to younger students? What should we as a school district think about doing to encourage more of our younger students before middle school to engage in research? Do you have any ideas?
Well, it's definitely a great opportunity. Get involved. I know a lot of people at high school say get involved in something that goes to the middle school. There's something you can do for all years in the middle school and the high school, and it's definitely worth it, because I just want to put this out there, at Penn State, which is the state competition for PJS, they gave away $1.1 million in scholarships.
So that's a really important point, Ryan, that there are opportunities for students to win scholarship monies.
Yeah, if you're a junior or senior in high school.
Wow.
So, and
Okay, that's
definitely,
terrific.
as you go through it, if you start at younger age and you go through it, you get better at it, and you are more likely to make it to states because you know what kind of projects and presentations it takes to get there.
Sure.
So the more time you have there, the more competitive, I guess, you'll get.
Okay.
You know what to expect
Yeah.
when you get there. And if you're interested, just join. Just join. No second thoughts.
Yeah, even if even if you don't have a project idea and you just want to join for the year and see maybe what it's like and see, like, get the feel of it and do a project next year, it's definitely worth it to join.
So I think what's really nice that I heard some of you say is that you can also work in this club with a partner or a small group,
For middle school.
or by yourself. So that can be comforting to students if they don't have to do something by themselves immediately upon joining. So that was really nice to
For
hear.
middle school, you can do groups, right?
Oh, you can,
I
okay.
don't think you can do them for high school.
Okay, so you're on your own this year, but it was a nice way to start.
For middle
things.
school,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay, terrific. So we'll work on what we can do in our elementary schools to expose more students to that real, genuine research where they have to do a lot of the thinking and not just follow the steps of a scientific method or procedure, if you will.
We have great elementary school teachers that not only teach science, award-winning, I should add, elementary school science teachers also, that have been doing some great things with getting kids prepared for when they get to middle school and do some science fair individually at the elementary level.
Great,
Yeah.
excellent, yeah. And again, another shift in our curriculum over the past couple of years. Excellent, good. Well, we hope that you have enjoyed our presentation, our discussion this evening. Ryan, Taya, Devin, and Malika, Dr. Johnson, I'd like to thank all of you for joining us on this Thursday evening, and hope that our viewers appreciated the information you shared. I know I certainly did. If we get some emails from any of our viewers, we will certainly take some time to share responses, either Mrs. Lester or I. Mrs. Lester, thank you for running the camera behind the scenes and producing, always appreciated. So this year, recall that we are running all of our 21 TLC, our 21st Century Teaching and Learning Committee meetings as broadcasts. And we're going to try to run them live every month when we have our meetings and offer you the opportunity to interact with us. And this evening, it was really by way of email. If you had anything you wanted to ask or contribute to, we welcome it. And I appreciate, once again, those of you that sent some questions ahead of time, really helpful. So thank you very much for joining us this evening. Thanks again to all of our guests, and we'll look forward to the next one. Good night.